Hi everybody. Here we are. We are on part 3 of my story in the video series of What's Wrong With Me. I am sitting currently on the futon because I was told that in my last video the squeaky chair over there was very distracting. Unfortunately, it is the most comfortable chair for me to sit on, and I managed to sit cross-legged sorta on the futon, which is not comfortable for me to sit on at all, but I'm going to try and maintain. This way you're not distracted by a squeaky chair. So without further ado, let's get right into part 3, the aftermath in Phoenix. The aftermath being the aftermath of the accident, which was in part 2. The very next morning, we got up and went and were able to procure a rental car for the trip, because I was still determined to go to the trip. I had the tickets and the hotel room and everything already paid for. Like, everything was already paid for. And I said in video 2, this was a childhood dream of mine, so I wasn't gonna, let it go to waste because of the, ill decisions of someone else. So we get the rental car and we went on the trip. Yeah, it was a fun trip. I got to go to WrestleMania. WrestleMania itself was a little but hey, if you're a wrestling fan, I got to see Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker 1 in person, in the crowd, and I'll go over that story in the future because it was really awesome. But on the trip, I knew something was up. I knew something was wrong. I assumed at the time it was just from the whiplash. And rightfully so, since it hit me so hard. The dual whiplash rather affected me so bad that, as I wrote in the part 2, I was bleeding. I was busted open in the back of my head back here. The seats we had were made of fabric, carpety type stuff. I know it's probably called something better than that. Pain really does crazy things to you, that, especially chronic pain, that people don't realize, that don't have it. They might not realize. Bear with me. I say it a lot. I know I do. But just please, if you can, bear with me. If I sound like I'm struggling, I am. But much like the distractions, I'm doing the best that I can. On the way home, though, from the trip is when I really knew something was up, because I felt off. And I know it's vague, but something was wrong. And I assumed it was just, normal after effects from whiplash. Anyone that's been in a car accident and has had whiplash can possibly attest to the fact that you may not feel it then or the next day, but the days after, it starts kicking in. We're driving back Monday morning, and it'd been 3 or 4 days after the accident, and yeah, I was feeling it. I was feeling it big time. So yeah, I said I knew something was wrong. But again, I said I thought it was just regular after effects from, a post-accident whiplash. So I'll get back to Phoenix, go back to work, and I start getting this weird sensation in the back of, where you're, if this is your head and this is your spine, where they meet up here, but then where there's the spine part in your head and there's a spine part in your back. Where those two parts meet, right here, I can't turn my head, but right here, if that makes sense, I started getting kind of a tingly feeling. Kind of reminiscent of if you're, when your leg goes to sleep or your foot goes to sleep, something like that. That's what it felt like, but not as severe. And I brought it up to a coworker, and she referred me to a doctor, a chiropractor. Because I needed a lawyer for the lawsuit, since we got, rear-ended by a drunk person. Get the lawyer, and I have nothing but good things to say about the lawyer. He was very understanding. He even kept in touch years after the accident was settled. So I would always, of all the negatives that came out of the situation in the last decade, the lawyer's name was Mr. Updike. And he was a good person. He was a good guy. And I appreciate everything he did for us and how hard he fought for us up until the end. So, and he's one of the few people in my story that I will actually use the real name of, because some people weren't so nice and I don't want to get sued. So we go to the chiropractor, get x-rays taken. We're told to come back in 5 days. And so we did. I remember vividly complaining on the way up there to go for the x-ray visit to get the results from the x-rays, but how this is stupid and I don't know why we're going. It's just whiplash, etc., etc. Now this next part, I'm going to talk to you now, but I'm going to attempt to draw it out as well and put it on the screen as I'm talking so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. I don't have the original x-ray. I used to, but the chiropractor I saw in my hometown when I moved back to Ohio, which we'll cover in part 4, he lost the x-ray. So yeah, I'm going to draw it for you the best I can. Now, I know I say, the accident was the moment that changed my life forever. It was. But this visit and what happened was the moment that changed my body forever. The accident was the catalyst for it all, but this visit was, if I could go back in time and change one thing, this might be the thing I change. And people would say don't, that's foolish, but you'll understand why, I think, in a sec. So we get there, and we go over my x-rays, huh? And then we go over mine. And he told me to sit down. Puts the x-ray up onto the, light board box thing. And, I'm sitting down, and he turns to me and he asks, I don't know how you walked in here. And I turn to my ex and I'm thinking to myself, what? It was just whiplash. And he then shows me the x-ray. And when you see something like what I saw, that there's that term, your blood runs cold. I know what that feels like. Essentially what had happened to me was, when I can't grab my avatar, I think it is in the other room, I was turned sideways talking to my ex, like I said in the second video. When the accident happened, I went forward, like sideways and forward, and then back, hit again, went forward again. This motion completely screwed my spine up from here to up here. So my vertebra from base of neck to cranium, those vertebrae, which are, about this long, let's say. Your spine looks like this picture on the screen now. But mine was what he called a bell-shaped curve with a twist. Essentially, my spine went from looking like this to looking like this. So as you can see, it is curved like a bell would be curved on the edge, and then each vertebra going from the base to the top was twisted, like you were twisting off the lid to a cap. So and he said that my spine, where it connects to the cranium up top, was a 1/4 inch away, twisting from being severed. I was told then that not only was I lucky to be walking, that I was actually very close to not surviving. And yeah, it's hard to adequately put into words what I was feeling at that moment. Disbelief initially. I was like, no, that's not my x-ray. No, I'm fine. I just have some stiffness is all. Here I am now told that, you know what, you're lucky to be walking, and 2, you're lucky to be alive. Sometimes I wonder, and I wonder to this day, if that maybe the reason I'm not healing from all of this 10 years later is because maybe I was supposed to die. It sounds like a horror movie or some kind of sci-fi thing, but maybe my body was supposed to not survive. And it's not healing because it's not supposed to. I don't know. I know that's hokum because I heal from, if I get like a scratch or a bruise or something, it heals. So my body heals. I just don't heal from this. That was the big bombshell as far as my condition at the time went. My ex was fine, perfectly fine, nothing wrong with them at all. I, for some reason, I wonder, what if I hadn't been turned to the side, talking? What if I'd just been facing straight forward like a normal person? I wouldn't have had that strange sideways forward whiplash that twisted my neck in such a way that it made that curve and all the way around. He said, in no uncertain terms, he has to adjust my neck right now. This is the exact moment that I was talking about, that if I could go back in time and change anything, it would be this. If I knew then what I know now, I would have said no. And I know it's foolish to think that. And yes, I was feeling weird tingly stuff back here. And it was feeling very, I knew something was wrong, as said. But this changed everything. My body has never been the same after this moment. And I wish I would have said no. Yes, my neck would have been in that same position, the bell-shaped curve with the twist. Yes, it would have been a 1/4 inch from being snapped off of my head completely. But I think I would have evened out to the point where I would have had a more fruitful life than what the last 10 years have given me. And I definitely wouldn't have a laundry list of loss and regret that came. Yeah. There's moments for all of us that we wish we could have seen the future or go back and change things, and this is one of them. I mean, ideally, I wouldn't have gotten in the car in the first place on that night, but first he had me lay on my side, and he put chiropractors have these tables where they have like a thing that raises up and then they hit something and it drops down. So basically I had to have this is my neck, right? This is this right here. This is this, and this is my head. So the curve of my head. So I had to lay my head so it was lower than the thing. And then, I know this sounds really, like, the part that comes up, that's where this part was sitting. So the raised part was here. My head was resting on the lower part. I can't tilt my head, but imagine I can tilt my head a little more like this, and he was holding it down. And then whatever he did to push it down, he pushed here and pushed my neck down. And it took 3 times. And the noise I heard, it sounded like if you had a bag of peanuts on the ground and you just crunched them with your shoe, like all at once. And then he had me gingerly lay on my back, and then they did the thing where they grab your head and they twist it. He couldn't do that because he had to put his the base of his palm here on my shoulder to steady me and steady my head. And then he did that. And we did that, I yelped. It was like this intense snap pain, a white flash happened really quickly. The next part is a feeling that I cannot describe adequately other than this. And it's a feeling that I do not wish on anyone. But when he twisted my neck like that, I felt every single muscle in my neck just shred. It was just like, your neck is strong and there's all these muscles here, and then imagine all of them just feel like they were ripped away at once. The creepiest thing about it was that I told him, I was like, something's wrong. And he said, yes. He's like, we just set your neck from a very bad, curve, twisty thing. He didn't say that. Those weren't his words. Those aren't doctor words. But, it's just like, we just set your neck and it's going to feel weird. I was like, no, my neck muscles just disintegrated all at once. And I don't think he understood what I was talking about. But you could literally put your fingers into my neck. Like you can do this with anybody's neck, but you could put your fingers into my neck like it was mashed potatoes, like putty. You could just go inside, and it was like to feel that, to feel all of your neck muscles just completely shred at once, and then to just your neck just feels like mashed potatoes is, I don't wish it on anyone. It's creepy and it's scary as hell. And yeah, it was bad. The next few weeks were very much a blur for me, because my life was in the very beginning stages of changing forever. I just didn't know it yet. I was bedridden. I couldn't do anything. My neck was just like that. It was. I did have a neck brace on. I wore a neck brace, a soft collar one. I was told that, in about 3 to 6 months, everything would heal back up and I would be okay. And I believed it. I did try to go back to work. I couldn't. I could barely be on my feet for more than an hour. It hurt so much. It's spine pain, not just bone pain, it's spine pain. It affected everything. And from the down here all the way up, it was just varying degrees of pain. Up here was just, the best way I could describe it, it just felt like there were atomic bombs going off in my neck. Just constantly. And then in this time, the lawyer wanted me to go see his doctor. And of course, I had no problem with that. So I went to the lawyer's doctor, call him Dr. Lawyer. And Dr. Lawyer was checking me out. And I will go on record as saying this was the first in a long line of being misdiagnosed. He told me that I had scoliosis. I don't know, like it didn't, I knew what scoliosis was. I've had friends with scoliosis. I know there's varying degrees of it. There's not like one definition of scoliosis, and that is like, there's different variations of it. I didn't think I had that. Essentially, though, what was going on with my spine was, and this is what he told me, but basically what had happened to me, since I had my neck set and I lost all neck muscles, my head, your head is heavy. My body was having to compensate for the weight of my head. Since I didn't have the neck muscle to support it like everyone else does, this was mushy mashed potatoes going on with, a spine that was still very malleable and moving because there was nothing to hold it in place. Again, this is your head. This is like your spine, let's say. This is normal person. And since my head had gotten so heavy and I didn't have neck muscles, my spine was doing this. And I think this is where he got the scoliosis idea from, where your spine connects from mid-back to the base of your neck. Mine is what's called a reverse curve from just that happening. Like it had to compensate for the weight. So when I talk about the bump area, that's what this is. That's what I'm talking about. It's a like if your spine is like this, my bump area feels just like this gnarled, just mess of it. Just, I've had people touch it and feel it, and they, ugh. I've had people look at this and back away. I want to put out there right now, I am very self-conscious about my body. I think everyone's beautiful in their own way, which I know sounds corny, but when you go through so much, you learn that superficial stuff is just aesthetics. Everyone has something about them that is freaking awesome. So I am self-conscious about my body for my reasons. as far as now when stuff happens on camera and whatnot, you know what I'm talking about. So as said, you know, I had to, I didn't quit my job. After that, I went on a medical leave. Did the best I could. I pretty much managed my store from home via my assistant. It's weird thinking that, oh, I could probably should be dead. Let's set your neck. Boom, neck muscle shred, mashed potatoes, soft collar, like all in the span of less than a month. All this happened to me. Because it did take me a couple weeks to get because I went on the trip and then I had to plan the doctor appointment. Then I had to go to the doctor, get the x-rays and wait, 5 days to a week for the x-rays. Yeah, in about a month, my entire life was completely turned upside down. So, yeah. Then I made the biggest mistake in hindsight that I could have made post-accident. I knew that I couldn't be on medical leave forever. I knew that I had the $15,000 in savings that I had mentioned before. And I knew that our rent in Phoenix was about $1,000. I wasn't sure when I could work again. I was told 3 to 6 months. And I said, okay, that's a big chunk of the savings gone. So I was like, what can I do that I can heal, but also, I guess, not have to pay rent and be around people that could help more and comfort me and basically, just support. I was scared. I was really scared. I wasn't sure what was going on. This was weird. This is very weird to me. And so I, as said, made the biggest mistake. And I decided to move back to Ohio. It's something I said I would never do. Just a lot of bad stuff. I can't drive by the high school in that town without trying, to remind myself that it is many years removed. Don't have a panic attack because it's over now. It was bad. And I vowed, I said in an earlier video, to never come back. It's like the town in It. When you leave, you succeed. When you come back, you just get haunted by Pennywise. But yeah, I made the decision to move back home, to move in with my mom. I knew that I could have a room there. I was essentially bedridden. I knew that if we drove straight from Phoenix back to Ohio, we could get there in a couple days. And yeah, so against my lawyer's insistence to not do it, both the chiropractor and the doctor lawyer, both urging me to not do it, I moved back to Ohio. Yeah. And that's where we will start part 4, the aftermath in Ohio. Thank you for watching this part of the video. My body is very stiff right now, so I'm going to just go ahead and stop here. Yeah, so I'm going to go take some ibuprofen. That's what I got. And make some choco milk. Because as I said, that's my comfort drink. And I will see you all in the next video when I go over what happened when I moved back to Ohio. Because that's when, yeah, I shouldn't have come back. But I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.